What's going on, everybody? Paul Tech here, and welcome to my full review of the Cricket Wireless HTC Desire 550. So I've actually owned this device for several months. You can actually pick this up at your local Best Buy for around $60. Let's kick this review off with design and build. So you are getting a pretty much all plastic built device. Volume rockers to the right hand side, as well as your blue colored power button. They are nice and easy to reach. To the bottom, you are getting a micro USB charging port to the far right hand corner. This does take about 2 hours to fully charge. On the left hand side, as you can see right there, you are going to be able to get access to your SIM card, as well as input an SD card for expandable storage. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of this flap right here on the side. It does feel kind of cheap and like it can easily break off, so just be careful there. Up on top, 3.5mm headphone jack. And to the back, you are getting an 8 megapixel rear facing camera. You got LED flash, your mic, HTC branding, Cricket branding. And what's interesting about this back here, you get this smooth texture to the upper portion, and then to the bottom, you get this real nice grippy texture. So I actually haven't used a case on this in the past couple months. It should be pretty good if you don't get a case for this because of all the grip along the sides and on the back. It's also pretty lightweight, and this is housing a 2200 milliamp hour non-removable battery. Take a look at the front of the Desire 550. So you're getting that blue color to the top and bottom, which does match the power button. You're also getting a 3 megapixel front facing camera, earpiece up on top, HTC branding to the bottom, and then you're also getting a bottom front firing speaker. So I definitely like the placement of that. We'll talk more about that speaker in a little bit. Moving on to the display now. So you're getting that 5-inch HD 720 by 1280 resolution, about 295 pixels per inch, and it's a decent 720p panel. It's not, the best I've seen, but not the worst. You're also getting an IPX2 rating on this, so you will be protected with the display from light drips of water. Outdoor visibility is okay. Again, the display doesn't get super bright. Now, 4G LTE connectivity was not the greatest. I only was able to get between 1 and 2 bars for some reason, so not the best 4G LTE connectivity for me. Moving on to phone calls, there was really no issue there. I was able to, make phone calls, accept them, and caller said I sounded perfectly fine. Moving on to keyboard and the keyboard sensitivity. As you can see with this keyboard, you have ways of customizing it so you can actually change the color. There's different themes to choose from that are free, and keyboard sensitivity was actually pretty good. I really didn't have any issues sending out text messages, picture messages, and the same thing goes with emails. And those are some of the different emojis you do have on the HTC Desire 550. Now, moving on to the user interface here of the Desire 550, kind of just show you around what you have, some of the options. So you do have on-screen buttons. Now you have the option of removing the on-screen buttons completely, which I really like that, or you can just have them on the display. Now, another feature you have here with the Desire 550 is if you swipe to the side there, you get into what is called Blink Feed, and you can basically see all your different highlights here. You can customize this for showing specific things on Facebook or news articles or just things of your interest. So you do have that there, which Blink Feed can actually be pretty useful on the Desire 550. Moving on to the app drawer, this is the basic layout. You get some pre-installed Cricket wireless bloatware. You got your tools folder, a theme option. You also have ways of showing and hiding apps, managing your apps, grid size. So what's powering this device? It is the Qualcomm Snapdragon 210 processor, clocked at 1.1 gigahertz. You got the Adreno 304 and 2 gigs of RAM. Now, when it comes to the sensors on the Desire 550, unfortunately, there's just not a whole lot of sensors you're working with here, and it is missing the gyroscope, the gyro sensor. So this device is not going to be good for VR or 360 videos. Now, with the 2 gigabytes of RAM, I did notice that when it comes to opening up applications, again with the 210 processor as well, there is just some slow loading times altogether. So it's just not the snappiest device from my experience of using it. So as you can see, it's just going to take some time to open up applications. And I mean, for the most part, the apps I did download, they didn't crash or anything like that. But with the 2 gigs of RAM, you definitely want to try to keep, and I've been saying this on most of my reviews, or pretty much all my reviews when it comes to devices with 2 gigs of RAM, you got to keep those background apps to a minimum. If not, you're going to start seeing that slowdown, that sluggishness, and I did experience this on the Desire 550, especially when I had multiple applications open in the background. Pulling down the status bar, as you can see, those are all the different quick toggles you do have. So for your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, you got, a variety of ones, and you can also edit these And so moving on, let's go into settings here, and I'll kind of show you around a little bit and some of the features you do have. So, connecting this to Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, I really didn't have any issues there. I did notice that there's no NFC on this device, so you're not going to be able to use Android Pay or Android Beam, but of course that's to be expected with a $60 device. And then going into personalize here, again, you can show the buttons on the bottom there, or you can either have them hidden, you can change the theme, and then you can change the font size, keyboard color, like I mentioned. So these are some of the different options you can choose from. And I actually think this is pretty neat. So you can just choose from a variety of free options for the keyboard. And then moving on from there, jumping into security. So there's no fingerprint sensor on the Desire 550. So your security features are going to be swipe, pattern, pin, and password. So that is what you have. And so go ahead and back up out of there. You also got smart lock on this, so you can enable that if you'd like. And then moving on from there, I'll go ahead and jump into display and gesture. So you can change, the font size, the display size, the brightness level, and then color temperature. This is actually pretty cool. So you can actually adjust this, make it a little warmer, make the display look a little cooler, just depends on your preference. So I like the fact that that is being offered here under settings. And then moving on from there, I also want to share with you that you have HTC Boomsound on the Desire 550. So I was actually pretty surprised to see this. So if you plug in a pair of headphones, you can actually take advantage and use that HTC Boomsound. And audio actually does sound pretty decent coming from a pair of headphones when they are plugged in with the Boomsound. So pretty cool stuff there. And moving on to storage now. So this does have 16 gigabytes of internal storage. And like I mentioned, you can always, get access to the side right there and input an SD card and expand it. And what is good is the fact that if you do put an SD card in, you can actually format it and use it as internal storage. So you can pretty much move all your applications over to the SD card. So again, a good feature you do have there. And then moving on to About Phone, as you can see, this is rocking 7.0 Nougat. And going into software information, unfortunately, this is still on February 1st, 2017 security patch. So that might be just about the end of updates for this phone. Now with 7.0 Nougat, you do get some good features that come along with it. So you get your Google Assistant on board, and then you can also do the split screen, the multi-window here. You can have pretty much two applications running side by side. Moving on to watching YouTube videos on the Desire 550, it's actually not a bad experience, especially since you have the single front-firing speaker. So all the audio is coming directly at you. Now it's not the loudest speaker, and audio can get a little tinny. Highest resolution you are going to be able to watch YouTube videos is 720p at 60 frames per second. And all the videos I did watch at 60 frames worked perfect. There was no type of blacking out issues whatsoever. I think I forgot to mention that this display also has Corning Gorilla Glass 3 for scratch resistance as well. Moving on to the Geekbench 4 test. So single core score 394, multi-core score 1050, and the Antutu benchmark test for those of you that were interested in what these type of scores that this device would get. When it comes to gameplay on the Desire 550, I threw a variety of different games at it. For instance, this game right here, Subway Surfers, it seemed to run perfectly fine, as well as this minion game that my kids like to play. I didn't really see any issues with these type of games like Angry Birds or Temple Run. When it came to the more graphic frame rate intense games, for instance like Asphalt 8, this is an area where I did see the Desire 550 struggling, and it did have some drops in frames, some stutter, and some slow loading time. So just keep in mind, this is not a super powerful device, especially for the high frame rate intense games. Moving on to the cameras, so you're getting that front-facing 3-megapixel camera, and then an 8-megapixel rear-facing camera with LED flash. And I did shoot a lot of photos and videos off the Desire 550. Shutter speed can actually be a little on the slow side. Now, if you have HDR enabled, shutter speed will get really slow. When it comes to recording videos, you are going to be able to record in HD resolution, so 720p. I didn't notice any type of electronic image stabilization, so you definitely want to have a steady hand while recording videos. You can pause and resume when you are recording. You can take a photo. I'll go ahead and zoom in all the way here, and when you're in full zoom, you can see things get pretty noisy and grainy. And moving on from there, I'm going to go ahead and show you the settings if you just slide from the side right there. So you got, a panorama option there, video, selfie photo, selfie video. Jumping into settings here, you do get some options here, so you can touch the auto exposure and adjust it, grid lines, geotag photos, shutter sounds. You got some additional options there. As you can see, auto smile and capture, voice capture, touch to capture. But I gotta say, I was actually pretty surprised with the 8 megapixel camera and the 3 megapixel front facing camera. I mean, it can actually produce some pretty decent photos. Photos is going to be better than video. And of course, if you go in low light conditions, things can get noisy and grainy. But I'm going to share with you some sample photos here shot on the Desire 550. Last area I want to touch on is battery life. So again, this is housing a non-removable 2,200 milliamp hour battery, and I was averaging around 3.5 hours of screen on time. But of course, your usage is going to vary, and your screen on time just depends on how you use your Desire 550. But that's pretty much it for my full review. Hopefully you guys did enjoy it, and hopefully this review does give you some more insight if this is the device for you, or maybe you should go for something else. If you enjoyed the review, please hit that thumbs up button, and please subscribe to the channel for more future videos. This is Paul Tech, and I will talk to you on the next one. Bye.